Virtual education, video education, and in-salon education. Do you know how and when to use all three types? We're going to cover that and a ton more all on today's show. Let's do it.
Salon owners are some of the most amazing people on planet Earth. The only problem is sometimes their hearts are so big and they give so much of themselves to their staff and guests that it creates unintended consequences. Our goal is to change the industry by elevating the way the rest of the world sees salons, spas, and barbershops and give it the credibility that it truly deserves. This is the Salon Owner Evo Revo Show.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Salon Scale, allowing you to charge by what you know, not by what you feel. What's going on, everybody? It's Jason Everett, and welcome to today's show. With me, as always, Mr. Doug Campbell. What's going on, Doug? How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How about yourself?
Dude, rocking it this morning. I'm excited to be on with you talking about this subject because, as you know, or maybe you don't, I don't know, maybe you don't know that we do massive amounts of virtual education globally, and we've been doing it for the last forever years. I don't even know how many years it's been now, but it's been a long time. We've been doing virtual training, coaching, and education as a company for a lot of years, and the subject today is on virtual education versus in-salon education versus video education. I think there's a right and a wrong place to use all of that stuff, Doug. And now that we have all of these options, right? You've got hybrid events, you got in-person events, you have digital classes, and you have video classes. As a salon owner, it can be complicated to figure out which one do you need to use where. And so, Doug, I'd love to know, in your salons, in your barbershop, how do you go about deciding when should you use each of those three? Let's talk about them and let's dive deep. And by the way, if for those of you guys that are on with us right now, if you've done a virtual class, type in virtual. If you've done video training for your team, type in video. And if you've done in-salon, type in in-salon or in barbershop. Is there in barber? In shop? I don't know. Anyway, one of those. But Doug, how do you use it? Where do you use it? Let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, I think it depends. The pandemic did open up some things. Sure. Virtual training was really not a thing before the pandemic. So that is one of the good things.
It existed. People just didn't use it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it existed, but it's like no one was going to take that as a viable option. Or like,
Right.
no, we want you in the salon. But I also think that it also has become a crutch to a certain extent. Oh, let's just do it virtually instead of everybody getting together. Which makes
just have them phone it in, literally.
Right. So I think you got to, and then also, the video stuff. Hey, download this. I mean, I know there's a lot of brands started doing training videos that you could get access to, which I think they had their place too. I think they all have their place, but I think you just have to, for lack of a better word, not be lazy and just go with whatever you think is easiest. I think you got to go with what's the most appropriate. So we look at more like if it's a technical skill thing, we like for that to be in person because it's just very difficult. The level of learning you can't, I think reinforcement on video is good. Like if they've got a video
review on video is great, right?
Right. They can go back and hone their skills, but they're learning something new or trying to up their game in something. I think it's important to have someone there so that, because it's almost impossible virtually. I mean, you'd have to have someone taking a camera around each model or mannequin as they're doing it, and each person, where in person, whoever the instructor is, can see everybody, can see if someone's struggling, can go over physically, use their hand to show them positioning and everything else that would make the learning much higher and much better. I think the facilitator or instructor being able to celebrate as people learn and stuff like that, they're not going to be able to see that. A virtual deal. But on the other hand, I think there is two different things that you can do. Virtual for personal development, I think works. I think it also can work if done right for team building. I think both of those work really well. Video, not so much for personal development because, it's not going to have the same effect. Because there's interaction.
Well, it might create some motivation, but the motivation's kind of temporary, and it depends on who's doing it and what's going on. I mean, even for us, we have a lot of people who watch personal development videos with us, but it really requires that implementation part in order for it to make the change. And I think going back to the beginning of what you said, Doug, on talking about the in-salon classes is you get that hands-on, you get that 360, and I think the most important thing is you get feedback. because it's like going to the gym and like watching a workout video. You might lift the weight completely differently than they say, think you're doing the same thing and go, I got this. I totally know what I'm doing. Like, why can't I create the result that I'm after? And that's kind of your only like closed feedback loop. And as soon as you bring somebody in the salon, they can watch you and see what you're doing wrong. I think that feedback component is really important when you're trying to figure out what the gap is in implementation of something, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I was like, and we both work out with personal trainers, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a big difference when they're like, no, do it
Oh yeah.
this way. That correct you as you're doing it, because form is everything. If you're not
Yeah.
doing it correctly, you're not working the part of the body that you're supposed to be working. One of the things I know that happens a lot with stylists, and when you're bringing the hair down and you go to cut, they'll want to turn their fingers one way or the other. It's a very small thing, but it makes a difference
Yeah.
in they're causing graduation there, and which
Sure.
causes a difference in the way the hair is going to be cut. But someone's not there to catch that. You got to keep your finger straight. Don't pull it down and then turn it up to cut it, because then you just change the angle. Uh,
Yeah. Well, and
the,
same
the,
thing about how you're holding your shears or what you're doing. I mean, as far as how you're applying things. So I think, so going back to that, I think there is a place for all of them. And what I want you to hear is that this podcast today is really not to like tell you to not use any of them. Just tell you how do you use each of them in the way that's the most appropriate. Because we recommend that people create like kind of their own internal associate training program inside their salon, so they can actually create an education platform. And we love being able to use videos, especially when it comes to like how-to tutorials for like using something in the salon, or maybe it's a software that they've got to use, right? It's your salon software, or there's a procedure that you want them to be trained on. Like systematic step-by-step trainings, I think, are really, really good when you do it. But there does need to be a closed loop to that communication to be able to say, okay, did you watch the video? Now, can I verify that you learned it? And not by like taking an online quiz that says you memorized everything, but actually watching you do it in real time. And the most important thing is, did you create the exact same result that you were looking for? And I think sometimes that's where that in-salon makes a big difference, is because you might look at that with an untrained eye and say, yep, that's the same result, versus a professional can look at that and go, that's not the same result.
right. And, I think it's just like our buddy Chris Barron has an associate training program.
Yeah, shout
It's
out to
got a
Chris.
lot of videos in it, a lot of how-tos and all that stuff, but it is not designed to be a standalone program.
Oh,
It
yeah.
requires human beings to check and make sure, and
Right.
the videos are reinforcement, so they can
Mhm.
go on their own time and hone their skills. It doesn't replace someone being there and actually watching them to get, because it just speeds on. It's like I said, it's getting the pieces of the puzzle and putting them together. Which one's best for supporting?
What time, what thing. Yeah. Well, and I think this is another good example. Um, a team building event, not very productive by watching a video. Like, I mean, you can watch it, like you could go watch a movie and that could be team building. You watch the movie together. If you discuss it, there might be an element of team building, but like, that's like level 1 team building, right? Level 2 is like maybe doing a virtual where somebody can come in and do it with you virtually. But even then, there's a lot of disconnect. Like if I was coming into a virtual class, there's still a disconnect. I mean, you can get a lot accomplished, but it's not as deep. And then there's an in-person, which is a deeper layer of what's there. So just be aware, like when you're there and you can actually feel the emotion. I was just saying this, Doug and I, in the last couple of weeks, were out at the Redken Artist Connection. And we were we were doing an event out there for them. They had about 500 Redken artists from all over the country. And we were doing some in-person team building. I was, speaking for their conference and all stuff. And it was just really interesting. I had a side conversation with somebody and I said, because they haven't done any live events for a really long time. And I said, there's something different about sitting next to another person and feeling what their energy's like that doesn't get translated through the computer. Like, even though, Doug, you're across the country right now, I'm here. We can do a lot of damage. I mean, we really can, with being able to be on a podcast, whether it's a recording or in person, or you're on with us live. By the way, if you're on live, do me a favor and say live. If you're watching it later, do me a favor and say later. It doesn't really matter, because we're just giving some information. We're getting it to you. But you can't feel the energy exactly the same way as that if Doug and I were in the same room. Like, I can't feel Doug's energy. I know it sounds a little woo-woo and maybe a little too off the deep end for some of you guys. But like, when you feel the energy, you can tell if somebody's like upset or whatever. Like, it's another part of your body, and you've got another sense that kicks in when you're in person. And with team building activities specifically, this is a really, really important skill for you to be able to, as a facilitator, as a trainer, to read the room and know what's going on and do some really incredible things, which is why We are big on doing trainings online for sure. That's like a number one thing that we do. But 3 times a year, we would never do a training program without this. We get together in person and we do live trainings, and those are transformative because people watch the videos online in advance if they can't make it live. They watch the live trainings and do it virtually with us, and that increases the level of awareness. Then 3 times a year, we get together in person and we do these in-person trainings. We just did one in St. Louis. We're getting ready to go to Palm Springs coming up in November. If any of you guys want to come to one of those events, do me a favor and say events in the comment section, so I know. We'll get you some information about how you can come join us. But it's like, there's nothing like being in that room. But if you use the videos to build some credibility and some trust and some knowledge and some base, and then you do some virtual trainings to build, then when you do the in-person, it's like times 100. Right? Is like those become much more intense, much more personal. And when you use all 3 of them in tandem with each other, because there, of course, is efficiencies in money of like putting on a YouTube video and letting that be your training. There's a great efficiency scale. There's some great, it's a lot cheaper to get a world-class speaker to do a training for you on YouTube because they're all just training for free on YouTube versus paying that person to come into your salon, right? You could go watch a video of any giant hair celebrity that you want, probably online teaching a class, but getting them to come to your salon is very different. So the barrier is much lower, but also the impact can also be much lower.
Yeah, and that would be video, but I think there is a place for someone coming in virtually if it's the right thing. I think like some of the personal development stuff can be done very well virtually. And I think one of the other things that you were talking about, I think so the places for everything. Like whenever we have a artist coming in to teach a class or something, we post their resume sheet, if you will, their one sheeter where it tells all their stuff. Then we also inside our private group, salon group, that we'll post videos of them doing things and training things, so that
like build the hype of what they're doing.
Right,
and
so
all
they start getting some credibility. They start getting excited about it because it's like, hey, we've got this design class coming up on such and such. If that's all you're doing, then the energy around that's not well. Where you could use even if you've got a relationship with the artist, you can get them to shoot you a personalized video. Hey guys, can't wait to come see you. I'm out here in XYZ right now. I'll be there next week. Super excited. All those things can build. And so you can use those things together. And even if someone's coming in virtually, because there's just something about them seeing you, because it's like, they see you on the video on TV, if you will. And then they see you in person, whether it's virtual in person or live in person, where you actually can interact. There's a level of credibility that has already been established than just bringing somebody in raw. So I'd say use all those elements to bring people in. And I also think if you could do the video credibility, then do virtual, and then if you had that person come in and do something live, then all the better.
Yeah, I love that topic. When we come back, let's talk about how you can use video to let's do it a little bit further. How can you use video? How can you use virtual? And how can you use in person in the salon experience in order to help create that? So we're going to go from how to use it for education to how to use it in the salon experience, all after the short break. We'll be right back.
Hey, HPSA listeners, let me ask you this. Are you tired of not knowing what your hair color is costing you on every appointment and watching it chew up your profit? Well, with Salon Scale, we take the guesswork out for you. Using a mobile app paired with a Bluetooth scale, Salon Scale will tell you exactly what your color is costing you on every bowl mix down to the gram. As you mix, Salon Scale will also digitally store your formulas and track how much product is being used in real time, so you can manage your inventory, cover your expenses, and generate more profit in your salon. Use promo code HPSA10 to get 10% off an annual subscription. Salon Scale, the new standard for mixing color.
Hey guys, welcome back. Doug and I are talking about the difference between video training, digital training, and in-salon training. And we're going to talk now a little bit more about the power of look, number one, how to use it inside the salon for training your associates and staff and maybe even your front desk. But how do you use the power of videos and digital and live to build the impact for your guest experience? Let's take a quick left turn on that, Doug, because I think that's a really powerful thing. We were talking about this last week at RAC. I was doing a breakout class with Redken artist Mandy McCullough. Shout out to Mandy, by the way. Her and I were sharing the stage out in Vegas. And we were having a good old time. We were talking about we were talking about how you can put together, as an artist, a hype reel to go into the salons before you get there, get them excited about what you're doing. And I think sometimes that people misunderstand how to use video to get people excited about what they're doing inside the salon. Like, just throwing this out here as a salon owner, if you want to hear this, hopefully you do. What would happen if you shot an introduction for every one of your stylists to go out to all of their guests before they came in for their first time? What would happen if that artist said, hey, my name is Jason. I've been doing hair for blah, blah, blah. I'm not a stylist, but this is a disclaimer. I've been doing hair for this long. I love working with guests at da-da-da-da-da. My favorite food is this, and I got a dog named Roscoe or whatever. Like, you just shoot a little bit of information and you send that video out. And how do you actually leverage that time is now all of a sudden, how much more invested is that person in coming in to have a guest experience when that video has been in there? We even have salons that are in our academy that even do a virtual consultation before that guest comes to the door. Again, leveraging their time and their opportunity. And then when they come in the salon, it's even more powerful experience. So think about that. If you use that same idea of video, virtual, and in salon for marketing, advertising, or just increasing your guest show up rates to make sure that they show and you don't have a no-show issue. Like, those are massive points of leverage that I think people often use very wrong. And it's just because they're like, well, we're a salon. We do things in salon. If you're here, we take care of you. If not, we don't care about you. Same thing with follow-up. Do you do follow-up videos after the service? Is there anything that you do to make sure, like, hey, I just want to shoot you a quick message. Make sure you love everything about your hair. Do me a favor and text me back. Like, and that's something you can even just put and build into the software system that you're using. And those video follow-ups can be texted out so they can check in with every single guest. And by the way, it can be the exact same video, generically asking the guest how they're doing or asking for a review. And like, you don't have to say, hey, Doug, I wanted to check with you on how your hair was. I can just say, hey, I want to follow up with you after your haircut with us. I know the first time can be a little scary. If there's anything that I need to do, or if you need any more recommendations the next time you come in, I'd be happy to do that for you. But please text me back and just make sure in the next couple of days you're in love with everything we did to your hair today. Like, how far would you set yourself apart as a salon? Think about this. How far would you set yourself apart as a salon or as a barbershop if you started sending out videos in advance, you started sending out videos after the service, you did a digital consultation? Like, how much more credibility do you get with that experience? Yeah,
I mean, it's like, you think about doing it with new guests, because it also could be a generic video that would go out. You don't have to say them, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you, blah, blah, blah. We had a similar experience at a Subaru dealership up in the Asheville area in North Carolina.
Okay.
So we went, great customer service. The whole experience was great. But afterwards, the service manager sent out a video that said, hey, I hope everything went great for you. If you had any issues or anything like that, please let us know. We want to keep you as a valued customer. But that was with modern technology and the ease of sending video stuff now. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, that's not quite so easy.
Right.
Things don't load as quick and all that stuff. But now that instead of if you send an email or even a text, it is just different than him, because even though we knew that was he's obviously not doing one for every guest that's coming in.
Sure.
But it still felt very personal and made us feel very good that they, seeing him and hearing him talk.
It made it real, right?
It made it different. So at least I know it was him, and it wasn't his assistant or some secretary. He had no idea that this thing's even going out. It was actually him saying, hey, we care about you and we want you to know, and you call me personally, all that stuff. So I think it adds a lot of value to it. And like I said, once you get it set up, and then what we're not recommending is that you create a whole lot more work for yourself.
Yeah, this isn't put out a new video for every single person that comes in the salon, and a thank you video for every single person who comes in the salon. 100%.
Right. So it's like, set it up and and hopefully your POS system can integrate that. So that's part of it. That goes out to new guests. So I think that's it definitely would add a lot to it. I think to what you said a while ago, some people may miss, but the show up rate of new guests, I think you increase that show up rate significantly, because they already feel like they have a connection, and they would be letting that person down if they didn't say, wow, they shot me a video and now I'm going to no show on them or change my point. That doesn't seem right.
Well, and it's really interesting too. I mean, I know that's kind of a little bit of a left from like what we were doing at the beginning of the podcast, but I just want to make sure we're hitting on this. I think it's a really important subject to talk about the power of leveraging
Mhm.
video versus virtual versus doing something in person or in salon. I think it's still in that same vein. And think about it this way. What if you shot an owner introduction video, and it can be very simple, whether it's a walkthrough of the salon, like a quick salon tour, or just an overview about you, like, hey, my name is so and so, and like the reason why I opened this salon was to make sure I can take care of people in the greater Sacramento area, or whatever it is for you. I'm Sacramento, but like in the greater Sacramento area, and I really want to make sure that you have an amazing quality guest experience. We spend years and years training people on our staff to make sure they become the very best of the industry, and we take them on education trips, and we really make sure they're up to your standard and beyond any other experience you've ever had. We'd love to make sure you have a good experience, so please do me a favor. And if for any reason you don't have a great experience, or you have a great experience, you want to tell me about it, call my cell phone, or text my cell phone, or let me know, or whatever you want to do. Or maybe it's a salon number that can text into or something, and just let them know, like, hey, this is me. I own the salon, and I'm happy to meet you. What amazing point of leverage would it be for almost every single one of the guests to meet you as the owner and to become a part of the experience, so that the guest experience is not just completely driven by the stylist, but they actually meet you. Maybe they meet somebody from a massage department or from the nail team or whatever it is. Just think of how many opportunities there are when you start to leverage that video, whether it's for something virtually or if it's for digital, or once it's in salon. And if you can continue that experience, I think the power of being able to go from in salon for training or for marketing or for guest service is just making sure that you use the right thing at the right moment. I think that's really the point of this podcast, is making sure you know when to use something in the salon or in the barbershop, when to do something virtually if it's a possibility, and then when to use video. Because man, oh man, if you do that, you will amplify your reach and your power into the guest mind and into the mind of your stylist 100 times. Right? You're just leveraging yourself and making a much bigger impact and a much bigger impression, and buying your time back, which, man, oh man, like that's what you're after, right? As a salon owner, Doug?
Yeah, I think the whole thing is, how do you receive it through video, virtual, and in person? And then
Right.
how do you deliver it that way too? Because it's like doing virtual makeup classes, virtual styling classes. All
Sure.
those things can be very powerful and a lot easier too. I mean, you got one person in the salon that would and be teaching 50 people how to do something. But I think
So,
when and how to use those, I think it's one of the things that, let's look at the pandemic, at COVID, say what good things can pull out. I think this is one of them. It gave us some more tools to deliver better if we
100%.
take advantage of it, or we could just default back to the way that we did it before. And I would
That's
say that would be a mistake. Let's leverage what we've learned and make it better for learning, make it better for giving. I think it works both ways.
100%. So guys, I hope you can take what you've learned from today's podcast and use it immediately inside the salon. If you if you got some valuable resource out of today, do me a favor and say valuable in the chat. And we'd love to help you with more things inside your salon. If any of you guys want some help or support, do me a favor and type the word support, and somebody from my team will reach out to you and be able to see what we can do to help you leverage and grow your salon, maybe give you more time off, maybe give you some more income, and maybe make your life a heck of a lot better through using video, virtual, and in-person events. So I'd love to help you, love to serve you, and love to get you moving in the right direction. Guys, thanks so much for joining the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, comment valuable, but also subscribe to our podcast, because without subscribers, we don't have a show. So it's good to have you guys with us and to make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing. And thank you guys so much. We're coming up on our 100th episode tomorrow, or not tomorrow. I don't know why I said tomorrow. Our next episode will be episode 100. So prepare yourself. We have some big updates and some big changes coming, and we can't wait to do it. So thanks all of you for listening, and appreciate having you on if you were watching. Bye for now. See you guys.
Later, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Evo Revo podcast.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Salon Scale, allowing you to charge by what you know, not by what you feel.
Please subscribe, leave us a review, and you can always get more information, including show notes and the video episodes, at evorevopodcast.com.